One of the things that I tried to do over the last couple months that I've heard other people were doing is do some yard work. We ordered some rocks, we moved some things around in our yard and tried to make the place look a little better on the outside. And when you do stuff like that, inevitably you come across a rock or a log or something that's been sitting there for a really long time. And you kind of don't want to pick it up and move it, because when you do, there's going to be a bunch of ugly stuff underneath it, like worms and bugs and all that kind of stuff. You don't want to, you know it's there, but as long as the rock just sits there, you don't have to look at the ugly stuff. And I think that's actually an interesting picture for what we do in our lives. There's stuff in our character that's not good, that we know is there, and we just try to pretend it's not there. And if we look at it, we sort of go like, oh, there's ugly stuff there, I just don't want to have to look at it. But it's really important and really healthy to do that, to face our demons, to look at the ugly stuff. My wife and I started doing that a couple years into our marriage. We went and saw a counselor and kind of dealt with some issues, and have continued to go to a counselor off and on over the years to deal with the stuff that comes up in our marriage and to look at all the ugly stuff and kind of get it out on the table. And I've personally gone to counseling a lot as well, so I can deal with the ways that I'm not as good of a leader as I should be, the way that I'm not as good of a husband or a father that I should be. It's not fun to look at the ugly stuff. It's kind of painful, but you can't really make good change until you see it for what it really is and then start to move forward. I think a lot of us often avoid looking at the ugly things. We don't want to pick that rock up and see what's there, and we would rather not know. And I think part of the reason we don't want to look at the ugly stuff is that if we see it, we will feel responsible to change it or do something, and we're a little scared of change, and we don't necessarily want to do that. This brings up maybe one of my favorite quotes of all time. It's W.H. Auden, who said, "We would rather be ruined than changed. We would rather die in our dread than climb the cross of the moment and let our illusions die." I bring all of this up because I've heard a ton from people about 2020 being a terrible year, and it has been weird so far for the first 6 months. And you hear all this talk about, oh my gosh, 2020, and you hear like jokes about it. I've made jokes about it, you know, because 2016 was quite a year and it was election year, and so you've heard the jokes like 2020 is like, oh, 2016, hold my beer, you know, and there's the kind of all those jokes. And we've said all of that, and we've been frustrated about like how insane and crazy it all is. And here's maybe one of the craziest parts about 2020 for me so far is I have thought recently, hey, this is an election year, which means the really insane stuff of the year probably hasn't even happened yet. Like, it's about to happen. With all that's going on, the fall is probably going to be really bizarre and crazy. And you know, what if 2020 is actually backloaded with the crazy stuff? That's not a comforting thought, I know. And so we can lament that, and we can say, ain't it awful? And I hate this, and I wish it was something different, and how bad or how disappointing it has been. Or we can choose to look at this a different way. I think 2020 may be the year that we will look back and go, yeah, that was the year we picked up the rock and we looked at all the ugly stuff. I know so many people who 4 months ago were saying, man, I'm so busy, I'm so stressed, I'm so tired, I'm so worn out, work's been crazy, family life is crazy, and all of these things, and we're running at, you know, 1,000,000 miles an hour. And then it's as if the Lord said, okay, well, we'll just shut it down, and you're just going to need to slow down for a minute. And we went into Lent season where we try to slow down, and then we had like the virus on top of that and people staying home, which ended up making this Lent season like the lentiest Lent ever lented. And we basically were like, yeah, you're just gonna have to stay home. Maybe that was a good thing. Maybe it was good to slow down and figure out more natural rhythms for our lives. Maybe 2020 was the year, and we will look back at the year where we picked up the ugly rock on race problems in this country, and we looked at the ugly things. And maybe this is the year that we got serious about making changes, so that a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we're not having these same fights. I hope so. I don't personally see a clear way forward for myself of the vision of where God's calling me to go, Like there's still pieces of that are unclear and what I need to do next. And I'm not even 100% clear on things that need to happen for our church. I've got some ideas and I can see some promptings of God towards some things, but I don't have perfect clarity. And especially when you look at some of these things about race and some of the struggles in our society right now, I don't have a clear way forward for our city or the society. I can't quite see how this all gets better, but I do think that 2020 is shining a light on some things, and that's a good first step. That's a great first step. Let's look at things as they truly are. Let's all look under the rock and see what's there. And so my hope and prayer is that we build something better for ourselves, for our neighbors, for our city, for our country, for the world. And my prayer is that this is the year that we look back and we will say, man, that really changed things for me in a really good way, and it changed things for our culture. So that's what I've been thinking about lately is, man, how we frame up this year really matters. And I'm committed to stop saying, oh, 2020 is just so awful, because I really believe it could be the thing that God uses to build something greater. So that's my hope and my prayer. Hope you can join me in that, and hope this helps you frame it up a little differently also. Take care. God bless.